Hello and welcome to the Daily Grind here on Latte Firm, Tuesday the 28th of July. Thanks so much for joining us. Warm welcome to all of our channel members, Patreon members, and of course those of you waiting so patiently in the chat. Delighted to be joined by my good friend, Adam Keys, host of the Arsenal Therapy, looking fabulous in his new away shirt. Welcome, Ad. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been a while. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm really looking forward to the new season, man. The World Cup came and went. It was fantastic. Really enjoyed it. I'm now enjoying some of the transfer speculation, much of course which we're going to come on to today. The boys are back in pre-season out in Girona doing their thing. We've got some friendlies to look forward to. But how about you, man? I mean, you look dashing in your new away shirt. Tell us, what number do you have on the back? Bruno G39?
You know what? I living in the Northeast. I really, really want a Bruno G shirt. Just because it's one of those, I'm so tempted if we get him to walk into my office with it on and just see the reaction. I've got Rice on this one, so I'm still a big kid, and but yeah, I love it. The shirt arrived. I ordered it the day it came out. It arrived yesterday. I couldn't believe how quick it was. So yeah, really, really pleased, and it just looks banging.
It looks amazing. Are you happy with the sort of finer details? That the red trim around the collar is a particular favorite of mine.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would like it to be reversed, so yellow and blue rather than blue and yellow. But I'm really pleased with that. I think it just looks really nice.
Well, Adidas, if you're watching, there we are with the reverse shirt for next season. Welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for all of your very generous comments. You're getting a lot of love in the chat already. Hello, champions is something that I will never, ever get bored of. Niall just saying, let's keep the faith, boys. Yeah, talking about our transfers, hopefully. And Cinnamon Swirl, a name that I absolutely love. Number 15 incoming. Arsenal, of course, looking to add the Newcastle United captain, Bruno Guimaraes, in a deal that could be worth as much as £80 million to turn our title success into dominance of English football. That's what we're going to talk about today. But Ad, let's get your original thoughts on your early thoughts on pre-season. So look, day 2 in Girona. Here are some fine snaps courtesy of Arsenal.com of some of our boys out there. We'll talk about one or two sort of players in a moment, but how are you feeling about pre-season? I mean, you sort of asked me about the World Cup and how it went, all that sort of stuff. What's your mood like at the moment?
It's nice. The minute those training pictures hit, I'm always like picked up, ready to go again. I didn't watch loads of the World Cup, to be honest. It's not Arsenal. It was I didn't like the hydration breaks. I didn't mind them the first few days. I was like, what's everyone complaining about? And then it got to, I can't remember what game it was. I think it was one of the France games. And it just really grated on me because the momentum swings within the game were just annoying me so much. And I didn't watch loads. I think the time difference as well, that stopped me getting into the World Cup. I watched every England game, a few France games, and a few Spain games, and every game Kai Havertz played in as well. But beyond that, I didn't go wild with this World Cup. I kind of felt like I needed a break, and I probably watched more footage of Sully's over that time than I did World Cup matches. So I've been trying to figure him out. So seeing him in preseason, seeing him with the team, some of the clips of him scoring from the edge of the box, nice to see. It's nice to see Waneri back, Max Diamond, Mikel wearing a hat just to go full Tony Pulis. I think that's something that I've really enjoyed. But yeah, seeing Max Diamond as well, and how much he looks part of the first team. And then I put a post out this morning, just one for you, Faisal, just especially for you, by Victor Gyökeres. He's back. He's got his first preseason. And that's a big thing. He didn't arrive until around the 26th, 27th last year. Started his first game against Villarreal on the 6th of August, played 62 minutes that day. We got beat 3-2. But then he was starting 11 days later at Old Trafford. And that shows how little prep time he has. And for me, he's not a player that's a natural on the ball. I think it would be hard to claim he is. But all this time with his team, getting time on the ball, and look how fit everyone looks. Like they all come back. Ben White looks like a bronze god. He looks in absolute pristine condition. So he looks like a player that's determined to play. So it's picked me up a bit.
I love that. Bronze God. Might have to use that in my own lines. You're getting a lot of love in the chat. First live in ages says Smurfer Durfer. Big up both FK and Adam. Keep up the good works. There's always one. High as a kite. Welcome to the show. Very loyal viewer of the channel says, link with everyone. Signed, no one. Well, I must set you correct, High as a kite, because Christos Solis is there in the middle of the upper row. He is in pre-season training. Assisted a goal in a behind the doors, that is what it's called, isn't it? Behind the doors friendly. Goalkeeper Ilan Meslier is also out there with keepers Kepa and Setford. What do you make of that situation, Ad? Not had you on to talk about that. Kepa still in and around the club. Obviously can go at any time. Are you expecting to be number 2 and Meslier number 3, or are you expecting them to change that up?
Yeah, I mean, I want Kepa to stay at the club. I think it would be down to Kepa to leave. I don't think you get many better number 2s. And Tim Stillman made a great point a few weeks ago on the Arsenal Vision. He said, you bring any number 2 in, they're not going to be as good as the number 1 purely because there is a number 2 role. But the other thing that's often overlooked is they don't have the momentum of playing. So you put Kepa out there in the cup final, which I was adamant beforehand he shouldn't play. And then we were all proved right. But it was hindsight we didn't want to have. Kepa hadn't played for weeks going into that game, whereas David Raya was in the form of his life. So for me, the only thing Arteta got wrong last season in terms of major decisions was playing Kepa in that game. I understand why he did it, but Arteta is someone who's pretty ruthless with a lot of decisions. And that to me felt like a decision where he was a bit soft. So for me, I don't see any reason to move Kepa on, because the flip side would be, who are you getting in that's better? Who are you getting in that isn't going to cost 3 times the price? And it also means getting a keeper that has to build a relationship with David Raya, because that's a big part of being a number 2, is the relationship to kind of promote and train with the number 1 keeper.
I think you're spot on, and I hope Kepa does stick around as backup goalkeeper. Nothing wrong, in my opinion, apart from that cup final, which, of course, didn't come back to bite us on the bum, and maybe a lesson learned for Mikel. AC says, hello, Chinpians. Of course, a link there to Vinicius Jr. And Matthew, a loyal viewer of the show, says, your guest, Adam, looks a little bit like Elliot Anderson, aside from the hair. There you go. There's your doppelganger, Elliot
I'm going to take that because I turned 36 yesterday, so to be compared to a 23-year-old is quite the compliment.
There you go. For me, it's Jason Statham, obviously, but just a bronze version. Boog says that jersey is elite top class. And Latif says, greetings, FK and Adam. To your point about players that have caught my attention, they all do look very lean, right back in the mix of things. I mean, because at this time of year, they're all coming back, they're getting weighed in, they're working on their fitness, their sharpness, they're doing running, they're doing some ball drills. But Ethan Wanyeri, as an example, looks really lean. Looks like he's matured. Looks like he's older, stronger, fitter. And like some of the pictures, as you can see, the bottom right one there, again, courtesy of Arsenal.com, the pictures of him are always on the ball, or ricocheting between slaloming between 2 defenders, or taking a shot. There's some video footage of him finishing from distance. I really hope this is a very positive experience for him this summer, and I hope with the friendlies that are to come, he gets some game time, because I think he's a very talented boy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's on Ethan to go and grab his minutes. Miles did it, and Max did it. But yeah, we saw last season, Miles was having a bit of a hard time. He worked his socks off to get that midfield role. And then once he got it, he didn't let it go. He made sure he was taking his opportunity. And he went out and showed his personality on the pitch. And the big thing for me is with Ethan, I want him to show for the ball. I want him to get into position to make sure that he's accessible for teammates. And it's when I talk about off the ball, I think everyone thinks of Jules, pressing, all of this. But the biggest thing off the ball for a player like Ethan is he needs to be moving whenever Arsenal have the ball. He needs to be showing himself. He needs to be getting into positions where he doesn't have to beat his man first time. Let that off the ball work do that for him. And I think the rest, the defensive work, will just fall into place. But it's the bit of go and find that extra yard for yourself. Make sure you don't have to create it when you get it. Create that yard beforehand. Give your midfielders a passing option every time, because those strikes, I think the one you reference and ends up in the top bin, that video that's been shared around, I don't know if we've got anyone else that can strike the ball as cleanly and consistently into those corners the way he can. Maybe Eza, but I'm not sure he gets the power that Waneri gets. So, yeah, this for me is one I would love to see him do really well this season, get his opportunity. And again, when you're looking at players on the market, we have to look at what we've got at home as well, because we've got a lot of talent and the signings have to be ceiling raisers.
They do. But just closing on Ethan, I think I've described him before, Adam, as a hugely exciting player. Every time he made that sort of cameo appearance, he'd come off the bench and he'd bring an energy, a directness, and a sort of intensity to his play. He'd get you up on your feet, as it were. And the goals that he scored, the sort of magic moments of dribbling and running past players and trying to get the ball into the box, really exciting. So the loan move was a disaster last season. I think that's fair to say. I think Mikel's got a task here to get the best out of him, and I know the right-hand side is fairly clogged up, but he's talked about wanting to play central. Maybe there's something that can be done there, so let's wait and see. But the boys are well and truly in action over pre-season. It is day 2 in Girona. Gabby Jesus also pictured there. These are the friendlies that are coming up. Girona. And as pointed out by one or two of you on Spotify, the Betis game is not taking place at the Aviva Stadium in Spain. It's taking place at the Aviva Stadium in Ireland, much to my amusement. Dortmund are coming in the Emirates Cup at the Emirates, and then Cesc Fabregas's Como also coming to the Emirates to kind of finish things off. Are you keeping an eye on any of these friendlies, Ad? I mean, do you take these seriously? What are you looking for when it comes to these?
I live for these, Faisal.
Do you?
Yeah, I love them.
Genuinely?
Absolutely love them. I have got
Tell me more.
I have got a ticket for the Betis game, but I'm not able to go back. So my mum's having to go on my place. It's her first Arsenal game for 20 years. So her and my dad are going. But yeah, I love preseason friendlies. I think they're very instructive as to how you want to play going forward. It gives you an idea of who's really hungry looking to play. And it also gives you an idea of who's kind of got one foot out the door, because you can kind of see it in the preseason performances. And I also enjoy that Reece Nelson 10 minutes of brilliance that makes you think, actually, maybe there's a player in there. So I think this is Reece's 10th preseason with Arsenal, which is pretty crazy. But no, I love these games. I bought my pass on Arsenal player, so I'll be getting stuck into these. I can't wait. I'm more excited about these 4 games than I was about the World Cup.
Wowzers. I promise we're not paid by Arsenal.com to kind of plug this, but I did say it yesterday. Adam's just mentioned it. Do not forget your early bird pass, or whatever it's called, $9.99 to stream all of these games legally and properly with all the Arsenal commentary team. Atlas, welcome to the show, says that we should sign Fresneda, Bruno G and Vinicius Jr. And that is what we're going to turn our attention to next on tonight's show. Bruno Guimaraes. Now, I'm not going to read word for word what's on screen, but just as you sip on your cool juice, Ad, let me bring everybody up to speed. So Han of Arsenal, who is the GOAT when it comes to transfer activity for Arsenal. If you're not following him, I don't know what you're doing. He is the source. Pick your sources wisely, ladies and gents, boys and girls. He wrote a bit of an essay, a bit of an update on Bruno Guimaraes just a day ago, maybe a couple of days ago. And he basically says, when David Ornstein first reported the news of a move on the 26th of June, we sent an offer below of £60 million and it was rejected. Of course, that was done via the intermediaries. In early July, he had reported that Bruno respectfully told Eddie Howe that he wants to leave for sporting reasons. You can understand that. Newcastle club captain wanting to sign for the Premier League champions, and at 28, almost 29 years of age, probably wants one last stab at a lucrative contract, a chance to win major silverware and to play in London with his fellow Brazilians. A £70 million bid was widely reported, but that was also rejected in the last few days. Then, Kia Jarabchian, super agent, has also been involved. His name has surfaced. Han of Arsenal's been all over that. And then on the 14th of July, just a couple of weeks ago, Han of Arsenal reported that there was going to be an 80 to £85 million sort of price level where serious talks take place. Now, the news over the last sort of day, yesterday, has started talking about a fee that begins with 8. Bruno Guimaraes is expected to come back to Newcastle this Friday to commence his pre-season training. Now, Luke Edwards has quoted Ben Jacobs, who's obviously a very loyal contributor to Latte firm. Ben Jacobs breaking the story early this morning, saying that Arsenal are advancing now in talks for Bruno. Clubs are now in contact, but Luke Edwards, as he has done all season, saying, no, according to Newcastle, they're not. I'm not sure how many times they can deny it. Someone pushing this. I've literally just got off the phone to a senior source at Newcastle. There is no situation with Bruno. Nothing new. Zero talks taking place. So I don't know if it's owner to owner, club to club, intermediary to intermediary. I believe Arteta has spoken to Bruno. I believe that Bruno is absolutely convinced that he wants to play for Arsenal and for Arteta and play for the champions. I think it's a matter of time. Ad, what have you made of this whole transfer saga? Because that is exactly what it's becoming.
Yeah, it's been a saga and a half. One thing I would say is Arsenal have been accused of using the media a lot by Newcastle fans, but nearly every piece of information has come from Newcastle journalists, including the actual breaking of the story, which was by Craig Hope first. He was the first one to report this, that Arsenal were exploring the deal. And I'll be honest, I put it in my Newcastle WhatsApp group and said Craig hopeless. I didn't think there was anything to it. That was when we were still being linked to Tonali. And I didn't think Bruno would leave Newcastle, nor would Arsenal sign a player of his age. Obviously, quality, he's a true ceiling raiser. But you look at the reports since, and if Arsenal's talked about it, David Ornstein broke the story almost 3 weeks tomorrow that he wanted to leave Newcastle, that he had informed them that he wanted to join Arsenal. But what's interesting, Bruno comes back from holiday on Friday and suddenly things are ramping up. So this is a it's a difficult deal to do. I would say that some of the reporting is perhaps, like, this is purely speculation, just in case I got accused of being an ITK, but I would say there is probably some reporting that's a bit of puppeteering involved in this deal, because Bruno is Newcastle's talisman. He is the figure of the project. He's club captain. He's everything to the fan base. You walk around Newcastle, it's just packed with Bruno G shirts. Funny enough, I was looking at a picture of me at Sam Fender at St. James's Park last year, and there's 2 people either side of me, and they both got Bruno G in the back of their shirt. So that was the whole stadium that night was filled with Bruno shirts. That's how much he's loved there. So I think Newcastle publicly have to posture that they are not selling him at all. They're one of those where they want 100 million, because let's be honest, it started around like 80, then suddenly it was, you have to pay us 100. Then it was like, so really it feels like it's fallen back into originally what the high price was. And I also think it's funny that as he's approaching the return from his holiday, suddenly we're starting to see things speed up. Lee Ryder today as well kind of tied himself in knots. It was not advancing, but talks are advanced. And again, I think there are talks ongoing probably between either the clubs or the intermediaries that are probably in a better nature than people are letting on, because I just find it very suspicious that it's suddenly picking up traction as Bruno's about to come back. But just imagine him in those pictures on Monday morning.
Yeah, well, I want to imagine it, because I think he'd be a fine player. I want to get your thoughts on the player and the impact that you think he's going to have at Arsenal, because I think he's a game changer, very much plug and play, and he's going to hit the ground running, hopefully. Just on the transfer fee, I think there's a number of reasons why the fee seems to change every sort of week or two, and basically, look, Newcastle, they don't want to sell this guy. He's their club captain. He's been absolutely fantastic for them. And they've seen Tonali go, they've seen Gordon go, they've seen Isak go, they've been burned. And they're trying desperately to hold on to as many of their good players as possible. Eddie Howe's in a bit of a tough spot. Financially, they're not allowed to do what they need to do. And the season, the project hasn't quite worked out. And then, of course, Elliot Anderson makes that move. Then Morgan Rogers makes that move. And, Tonali goes for 100 mil because Spurs are daft. And that kind of pushes up the fee. And I think you're absolutely spot on. The World Cup came and went. He's obviously had a break with his family. He's due back in Newcastle in England towards the end of this week. And I feel now with Arsenal in pre-season, get the Girona game out the game, out the way, travel to Ireland. Bert is going to Bert. Arteta's in the background. I think things will pick up, and I hope that over the next couple of days we shall see some movement. But let's talk about the player himself, and this is where I really want to get your insight, Ad, because I love the way you describe football. We'll go into the graphics in just a second on the right-hand side. But as a reminder for people, Bruno Guimaraes, obviously currently of Newcastle United, a Brazil international with 46 caps to his game, 28 years of age, does turn 29 in the first half of the new season. In at 6 foot, taller than I thought, or taller than he looks when you watch him on TV. He is a central midfielder, can play defensive midfield. Preferred foot is obviously his right side. 27 starts in the league last year with 2 appearances off the bench. Quite handy in front of goal, as you can see, courtesy of Opta on the right-hand side. There are his goals, assists, and his sort of goal contribution total over the years that he's been at Newcastle when he moved from France. 9 goals, 5 assists in the Premier League last season. Really good passing accuracy. I do this sort of percentage every time I do a breakdown ad, and we typically get between sort of 75 and 80, 82, 83%. 86 is high. 4.7 recoveries per game. We'll come on to the defensive side of his game on the next slide. And discipline-wise, to my absolute amazement, has never been sent off in the Premier League. He's got 6 yellow cards and he's never had a red. Amazing. His contract is due to run out June 28, and of course the fee, like you say, has gone up to about £80 million. Adam, talk to me about the impact that Bruno will have on our football, on our play, and Mikel Arteta.
Yeah, I mean, this is a signing that we should have made in 2020, 2021, and in 2022. So there's history there, and I think part of Bruno wanting Arsenal comes back to that history. And I think Mikel has always wanted Bruno as well. So there is definitely more to this than just Bruno wants to go to a bigger club. So when there is the fear that a city or someone comes in and hijacks this, but I think that's where this connection is a bit deeper. But for a pure playing level, you said plug and play. I think that's exactly what this is. The thing that I love about Bruno, and I would probably guess that I've watched him live more than any other Arsenal fan. Being in the Northeast, I've been to see Newcastle a lot. So I've seen him in both ends. I've seen him as an Arsenal fan, and I've also seen him sitting amongst the Newcastle fans watching a game there. So seeing him from both perspectives, you get to see kind of the hatred the Arsenal fans have had for him during games. I saw Zubimendi absolutely destroy him and Tonali at the Emirates, although Bruno was very good that day. But I've also seen him many times sitting amongst the Newcastle fans and watching football that way. So very interesting, just because they love everything. But he's very much the man that kickstarts everything. And what I would say about Bruno is he's front-footed. That would be the first thing that comes to mind when I think of this player. He's punchy. When he gets the ball, he wants to play it forward. He wants to feed it in behind, break the lines and all of that. But the same thing applies to his defensive game. He is front-footed and punchy. He is very, very good in the counter press, getting that ball quickly, forcing turnovers. And what's really interesting by Bruno is he's really good side to side. He covers quite a bit of ground side to side. But if you get him running backwards, that's when you'll start to see his legs. So he can be run over that way. But at the same time, he's also someone that will foul you. But he's very clever about where he fouls players. And if you look back to the start of the season, first half, Zubimendi was doing that. Think of the first few months when people were worried about Zubimendi being outrun in transition. He was giving away these fouls, but he's never getting booked. And Bruno's got similarities to that. Rodri's very good at that as well. But it's that side-to-side motion where he kind of charges in, wins it, shows a real bit of force. Next minute, he's over at the crowd, throwing his arms up. And the Arsenal fan base are going to love him. Some of my mates here, Newcastle fans, have said from the start, he will be loved at Arsenal. They are kind of changing their tune now the longer it's dragged on. And they're not liking Arsenal so much. But many feel that Bruno's been let down because he is their best player. Even when Isaac was there, people said that they thought Bruno was their best player. So this is just a phenomenal player. And I know Gunner Blog wrote that Arsenal view him as an alternative and a partner to Rice. And I think that can be true, but he is not an athletic comparison to Declan Rice. He's not going to come in and give you that big ground coverage the way Rice can with the recovery runs. What Bruno can give you, though, is something different. And I do think we've talked a lot last season and the season before about not being penetrated not breaking the line, not penetrating teams enough when it comes to really going around the horseshoe and so on. This is where Zubimendi and Bruno can really thrive. We used to hold on to the ball, kill teams with 1,000 passes and so on. We don't really do that anymore. And we often hear about the low blocks. If you look at the second half of last season, there were a lot of teams who went man-to-man against us. We didn't face loads of low blocks in the second half of the season. And in some of those games, we struggled. That's where Bruno, with that punchy pass and just the ability to kind of carry. He is a decent carrier, but he's not quick, so he's not going to go over big distances. He can skip past the man and release it quickly. That's where I see him really, really allowing us to thrive.
Well, just while you were talking, I've brought up his sort of midfield radar. We've seen these a lot online, and this compares him to all midfielders in the Premier League, and he is high up there amongst so many traits as a player. Final third passes complete. Look at that. At really high percentile at 9.2 per game. Assists, chances created, big chances created, goals scored, shots on target, duels won. Ball recovery is a little bit poor, passes completed good. But to your point, this is a guy who is very capable of breaking the lines, playing that penetrative pass. We saw that with Brazil and, of course, the goal for Martinelli. He is ever present. He is mobile in that he covers ground, but he's not quite the sort of, he's certainly not a transition player. He doesn't sort of eat up the grass like Declan Rice does, but he can cover ground. You find him high up, you find him deep, very comfortable on the ball. I would say the word that he is when it comes to fouling, he's cute. And, the more I think about it, the more I think Jorginho's head fell onto his elbow. But we'll talk about that another day. Of course he did, yeah. But no, honestly, I think this guy is very cute. He knows how to play the system. I think he's a very sort of big shithouser. And, I've talked about this a couple of times. He is a player that has been a thorn in our side in the Premier League. And this is exactly what Sir Alex Ferguson used to do. He used to go out while he was Manchester United manager and buy those players that took points off them. And he said, if you can't beat them, join them. And he brought them in, the likes of Dwight York as an example. So I think Bruno Guimaraes is the sort of player that he is Premier League proven, well established as a leader. He's settled, he's acclimatized. If you can play in the North East, you can play anywhere. He's a top footballer, and he is absolutely the sort of player, caliber, quality that we should be looking for, particularly when you consider the likes of Declan Rice are likely to miss the first sort of 4 to 6 weeks of the season, depending on who you follow and what you believe. My question to you, Ad, is we'll look at the passing stuff at the bottom right, because this is really interesting. But before I do that, are you concerned about his age? There's a lot of noise there about, he's 28, he's going to be 29, £100 million, that's an absurd amount of money, which it absolutely is. But we're going to get, I think, 3, 4, 5 years out of him. And this is, like I said at the very start of the show, a chance for us to build on our title and start dominating and build a bit of a dynasty. And this is, like I say, plug and play.
Yeah. Fee-wise, I've always kind of thought around 75 gets something done. I would probably be comfortable going to 85, but then there's also that thing, if it's not my money, I pay to watch Arsenal, so I want to see the best players. I also think that we're at a time right now where we have to maximize this group. And I know people are looking at some younger players and so on. And of the younger players that were linked, like genuine younger players, Alex Scott's the one I probably like the most. But with Bruno, I see a bit like Granit Xhaka, where Xhaka's kept getting better as he's got older. Because like Xhaka, Bruno's a player who's always available, has a great engine, but doesn't have real athletic ability. He's never been quick. So those kind of players tend to play with their brain and their technicality. And that's where I see Bruno really thriving. But what's interesting as well is he won more duels, 697, and more fouls, 291, than any other player across the last 3 seasons in the Prem. So this is a guy who very much ticks Arteta's kind of wish list. He loves a duel. He loves going in for a scrap. You mentioned the shithousery. The fan base will absolutely love this. I know there's people who are still like, he did that to Jorginho. They don't like him. But this is a guy who I guarantee you'll fall in love with the minute he steps on the pitch in an Arsenal shirt, because he will fight for every teammate. Gabriel is going to get a whole new dose of anger whenever he's on the pitch with Bruno. So we're going to see just a different version of him. But there's so many boxes that are ticked, and him being 28, I think he will come in. He's experienced. He knows who he is as a player. There's no kind of molding him into something else. It is a case of this is what you get with Bruno, and this is what he's being brought in to do. Whereas sometimes I think when you bring in a Mascara, for example, if you were to look at that kind of player in midfield, you're almost looking at what can they be? Are they a 6? Are they an 8? Do we make them a 10? And there's a bit of that with Alex Scott. But with Bruno, it's very much he's an 8 who can play as a 6. I actually think that Bruno could be an 8 who could also play as a 10. So what's interesting, if you look at the graphic on the right, the final third completed passes, Bruno's got a lot of guile around the box, and he's very good at breaking the last line. So when we think of our midfielders, I think we quite often think about breaking the first or second line. Bruno's a last line breaking player, and that's where he really thrives. He is someone who will get his head up. And for you, a big Gyökeres fan, he will hit those runs early. He will feed that ball through. And that's something Zubimendi was doing at the start of the season. But as it went on, we didn't see him doing it as much. So I think he's a player that could really thrive in that department. And the other thing, if you look at towards the end of last season, when Eze played and Lewis Skelly was playing alongside Declan Rice, Lewis Skelly was getting his head up and he was firing that ball through in between the lines, and Eze was standing in the pocket. He was giving him a target, but he was standing away from Lewis Skelly. The minute Odegaard came back in, he was standing on top of them. I think if you've got Eze playing 10 with Bruno or with Miles, they fire that ball in time and time again. And I think if you've got a really stubborn team to break down, Miles and Bruno can play together. So I actually think, and I so far haven't seen anyone else making this kind of assumption, but I think Bruno could be quite a good mentor for Miles because they do have similarities. They both like to hit that pass early. They like to get it out of their feet. Miles is taller than he looks as well, but they're both very strong. I didn't think Bruno was 6 foot, to be honest, but they both kind of role players and get that ball away early. So I think this could really help Miles. And look, Miles finished last season as a starter. Whoever's coming in has to snatch a shirt off him because he's training as a midfielder right now. So as a group of 4, scary.
It is scary. And you need that depth, because like I said, Zubimendi, I know he came on in the cup final. Declan Rice obviously played all of the World Cup. He will miss the first few weeks. And it's important that we hit the ground running because all of our rival clubs, albeit under their first full season under a new manager, the target is on our back. They're going to want to hunt us down. And to your point about Alex Scott, he's a player that I really like. And I've talked about it. I talked about it on the match reaction video that we had when we lost that day to Bournemouth at the Emirates. I thought it was superb. He outran all of our midfield. He scored the goal. He was fantastic. Really lovely touch about him. Great energy. Looked good on the ball. From a player profile perspective, you're buying into his future as a young lad. He's an English lad. I love all of that stuff about him. And he's a player that will absolutely be superb in the Premier League at some point. However, we won the Premier League last year. We got to the Champions League final. And if I think about a one-off game scenario, Ed, if we had a massive cup final tomorrow, and my question to you was going to be, who you play in midfield? Bruno Guimaraes or Alex Scott? Mate, you pick Bruno because Bruno is the difference that gets you over the line over the likes of PSG. Like you say, you look at the passing stuff on the bottom right-hand side, courtesy of Sky Sports. That is a comparison in terms of output and numbers to Declan Rice and Zubimendi. Forward pass percentage, higher than both Rice and Zubimendi. Forward pass accuracy, higher than both. Now, listen, obviously, it's not weighted for style of play that the club has. Newcastle often sit a little bit deeper. Arsenal playing a little bit higher up the pitch. So it's difficult. It's more challenging for Rice and Zubimendi to always make those forward passes. But line-breaking passes, to your point, one of the things that I spotted last year, we tried to work on it. We tried to be quicker and in transition. But I think those line-breaking passes from deep in particular, Bruno's got that capability. He can pop up anywhere. He can pop up deep. He can pop up high. He can play the ball in behind. Someone like Gyökeres needs that ball into space much, much quicker. Likewise, Martinelli. And if it is to be Solis on the left-hand side or maybe, dare I say, Vinicius Jr., this guy is a no-brainer for me, Ed. So I want to end it on... I will end it on a positive because there's one more slide to go. But I want to ask you about any challenges that you think might come or any cons to this move. Obviously, it's a lot of money. But let's not forget also, Ad, that where we've come from the Arsene Wenger years, the Emirates Stadium stuff, we're now in a position where we're champions, generating huge revenue, Champions League finals. We have the money. Like, should we be bothered about that? Some people be sort of been throwing at me on social. Well, you can't really sell him once he's sort of past 30. I mean, Saudi will be queuing up for anyone these days. But any cons for you? Any downsides to this move for you?
The only downside for me is he's 28, but he's 28 until he's 29. So
and that's how it works.
That is the only con for me, because he's never been that athletic. If you want to get into the other thing that people have raised, is people want more legs in midfield to mitigate for any injuries to Declan Rice. And I've thought long and hard about this. And my kind of final thoughts on it led me to what players are good enough to really deputise for Declan Rice. And the only one, in my opinion, is Amadou Onana, just on his ACL. We wouldn't have been able to deal with Villa anyway, let's be honest. But it was a case of, if you go and get a Buati, who I really like and would love to see at the club, you are talking about a developmental player. And that's something, again, for a Buati, I'm willing to do. I'm also willing to do that for Alex Scott, although I think he's more there than someone like Buati. But in terms of true legs in the middle, Alex Scott's probably the other one with a big engine. But there aren't many who are really, really good enough to come in and properly deputise for Declan Rice. Because with Rice, you're not only losing the legs, you're losing the leadership, the out of possession discipline, his ability to snuff out danger and just know where to be, plus everything he does on the ball. So you take Declan Rice out, you get all that. Now, the question is, do you want just someone who's really athletic, who then will not step on the pitch when Rice is fit? Or do you want someone who can complement him and deputise when needed? Because despite what some people say, I guarantee Declan Rice will not miss the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season. I bet he maybe misses Coventry and then he's back in, because it's Declan Rice. I think
Villa away is a little bit scary without Deckers, Saka, Saliba and co.
I mean, we beat Villa at home without Declan Rice last season, and Odegaard and Zubimendi were unbelievable that night. But I just do not see Declan Rice missing a sustained period of time for Arsenal. Okay. What I do want to see, though, is Declan Rice being rested and rotated more throughout the season.
Agreed.
He doesn't need to play 90 every game. He doesn't need to play midweek every game. If we've got a big game coming up, Saka, Declan Rice, prioritize them. That's what PSG are doing. I don't want to see them playing Southampton midweek in a cup game and then strolling out to play Man City 4 days later. This is where we need to get smarter and protect them. And this is where I think a Bruno really comes in and gives us that. So in terms of downside of the deal, it would only be his age, because on a pure technical level, he is just special. And he's a shithouse, a jeweler, all of those other things. So you can compensate for a player. If you've got two really technical midfielders like Zubi and Bruno, or Miles and Bruno, or whoever it is, you can put fullbacks on that compensate for them if they have to go backwards. You might not play Calafiori if you've got two slower midfielders on the pitch. But there's ways around this. I would rather go for the best footballer who wins you games rather than someone who stops you losing them.
Well, special is the word that I would use to describe Bruno, and he is a player that I would absolutely love in this Arsenal team. So let's see how that goes, Adam. That's been fantastic. Let me just bring you guys up to speed with one last slide, just in case you've missed them. Get your latte firm fix immediately. There's a free Bruno segment that I did with Simon Collins earlier this month. Do check that out. There was a special feature on Christos Solis. Those of you recognizing the Moneyball scene there, with Brad Pitt sat on the sofa and his data analyst talking him through the numbers. Solis there on the notice board. Johnny Stones, of course, there was a time when we were linked with him, but of course now being linked with a move to Inter Milan, and of course the Galactico, Vinicius Jr. I joined Elliot of the Arsenal Vision podcast on Sunday night. So in case you've missed any of those shows, get your latte firm fix. Those videos are up on the channel feed. I guess we just now have to wait and see if Vinicius Jr., anything comes of that. But of course, Bruno Guimaraes, that is the next name on the list. Ad, thank you so much for joining me. Really, really appreciate you joining. Oh, we have had a couple of questions for you. So very, very quickly, Okay. Thoughts on Fresneda, says Defenestration. I like the look of him in Spain. Didn't watch much of Sporting last year, though. Any thoughts?
I didn't watch much of Sporting. I have seen bits of him just because we've been linked. So I've been
For years.
doing a bit of homework on him recently. Yeah, I did see stuff because I think it was Valladolid he was at or something like that. And I watched a bit of him there, and then it kind of tapered off. But I've spoken to Ben about him. Ben Mattinson, he rates him very highly. Says he's come on a lot in Portugal. But beyond that, I'll be honest, until links really start to grow there, I don't know enough right now. So I would have to do my homework. But what I would say is I am in favor of signing a proper right back over a centre back to deputise for Saliba. I know you've got strong thoughts on Ezri Konsa. I've listened to the shows, and my concern is I rate Konsa a lot more highly than you do. I didn't realize you were so anti Ezri Konsa until I started listening. But
Clive Palmer has turned my opinion on him. But
I like Ezri Konsa. And I would pay a decent fee for him, but I don't think we'll get him for a decent fee. I think we would have to massively overpay there. So that's why I'm thinking coming into the summer, I wanted a right back. Everyone wanted a right back. I would go and buy that right back and move Ben White infield so that you could get your Fresneda or someone in that ilk that could come in and really add something different to the team. Because with Konsa, for example, or another centre back, I think that keeps our build up the same. Whereas I would like to see someone that's able to do something a bit different in the wide areas. So Fresneda, if it comes about, is definitely an interesting name for me.
Well, let's wait and see what happens. If anybody wants to follow Adam, he's available on socials at AdamKeys_, host of the Arsenal Therapy podcast. And it's been great to have you on the show. And Patreon members, I'm going to head over, upload this video as ad-free content, and then I'm going to do a draw for the tickets for the Dortmund game. So one of our lucky Patreon members will win a pair of tickets. If you want to go on your own and you want to give up the other one, then maybe a pair of our Patreon members will come along to the game with me at the Emirates Stadium in just a few days' time. And it'd be great to have you back on the show at some point, maybe after we've signed Bruno, so you can go into work with your Bruno G39 new away shirt, which looks fabulous. Thanks for joining us all. Look after yourselves, sleep well, and it is bye for now.